even if the whole operating system wasn't Google-based, I think a lot of people would still use those Google services on Windows, on Linux, on the Mac. So that, I think, is fine. The other thing is, I think there's a difference between, as I said, I don't use any cloud-based services. All my stuff is locally stored. However, if I lose the internet, which has happened on occasion, the internet's been down for like 6 or 7 hours when a fault's happened on somewhere at the ISP end, and I'm totally lost. I'm completely lost if I don't have the internet. You just forget how many times that you're usually flicking back and forth to IRC or on Identica or I'll just check the email or whatever, and you can't, and you just feel completely cut off without the internet, even although you're not using cloud services, you know?
It is bizarre because, the times, like I say, when my internet's gone down, I feel if I was to switch the computer on without a net connection, I'd feel very isolated. And it's strange, I think, how, I remember a time, probably about 15 years ago now, maybe a little bit less, where I'd only connect to the internet or connect online if I really required it. And then as soon as I'd finished, it'd be straight off again. And I couldn't picture at that time being permanently connected. This always-on thing was something that people who wanted to run the risk of having their computers exploited, or people with a lot of money or a lot of time on their hands would be permanently connected. I couldn't see at that time a purpose for being permanently connected. So, but now, rather strange. The computer is just a piece of plastic now. If the internet goes off, can I just add a very, very quick factoid here? I just want to very quickly drop in. Now, this is a fact that's alleged, and it's apparently by Harvard University, and it's in relation to Google. And the fact is, or what it claims is, every time you do a Google search, you generate 7 grams of CO2. Now, for the people that are listening to this show that can't put that into real terms, 2 searches on Google would be equivalent of boiling a kettle of water. Now, this fact I've got from a mainstream magazine, so I'm hoping that Roy, who has looked at environment issues before, might be able to correct it or confirm it. But that was the fact. So sorry, Roy, just want to throw that in.
Yeah, well, your computer is also using lots of electricity, but that's... what do you think the goal of these studies are?
I'll tell you what I got. I'll disclose the source of it, actually. It's from the Linux Format magazine, and it's an advert, actually.
It's been going on for a while. These studies, since 2005, I can remember all kinds of judgments of data centers in general, but in a data center, the number of servers you have, probably would be a lot less than the number of computers in the whole area. And also, because of the structure of the servers, they tend to supply quite a bit of capacity compared to what they do. When your computer, when you think of download speed, you have to remember your computer is actually downloading very fast, and data centers actually upload lots of things or send it out from the data center to your house. And what they actually do is they also do lots of the processing. When you're using a web service, most of the computation is being done on their side, and then they basically give you the output. So increasingly, as you move more and more things into the data center, you'll expect the pollution, so to speak, to move towards those big companies, and you can accuse those companies like Facebook of, Facebook can be used for viewing people's albums and things like that. So instead of people doing these things on their computers, they'll do it both on their computers and somebody else's computer at the same time. So,
greenwashing is big business. So when companies all do things to try and give the impression that the part of their website that says, "Hey, we're friendly to the planet, we're eco-friendly, we're green," they want to quote all these stats and figures, and they want to count all sorts of things. Apple, among others, have been accused of not using the right materials when they build their devices, that they're not easily recycled. And they're only one company. There are a lot of companies have been accused of sort of smudging the figures and counting things they shouldn't and not counting things they should. And saying, well, okay, there's the amount of CO2 that's been made per unit when your device has been made because it uses this type of metal in this part of the process, and it's not recycled properly. You don't pick up your old stuff, and people are throwing it out, so that counts against you. And so a lot of it's PR, and companies trying to appear more green, so that they can paint themselves as eco-friendly. And Google, obviously, the big thing Google do is all their online presence. So the things that power that is being all their servers. That's where the majority of their count is going to come from, as well as the actual stuff coming out of the Googleplex and at their head office. But the majority is going to be their servers. So.
Well, I thought I'd drop that in just because we were mentioning this subject of Google. It was something that caught my eye a few days ago, and I was trying to find an opportune time to throw it in there. What we'll do... Sorry, yeah, go on.
I was going to say something very fast. The way I view Google's platform, and I was trying to let you give your opinion before I give mine. I used to be very optimistic about it and very happy because that's Linux and more devices and embedded devices, but the purpose of Google Chrome seems to be pushing people towards Google services and then subsidize the device itself. At the same time, it's trying to lock people down and create a kind of an Android-type environment that uses a different window manager, and in some way doesn't actually bring back as it could do to the upstream. So in the long term, I think there is going to be more and more friction, as I see now, from projects like Fedora or Ubuntu, when they look at Google, and Google is trying to do things in a way that's more restrictive and maybe do it more successfully because of their brand and because of their relationships with companies like Dell. And they will try to remind you should be using something that's more Linuxy, more about freedom than about power, and then you have the issue of having your files stored on somebody else's computers and somebody else's servers, and so that's also an issue.
I mean,
well, I think the Chrome. So I was going to say, I think that the Chrome OS idea would work as a fast boot thing, as an alternative OS instead of a netbook, something that's just, if you want to quickly get online, fire an email off before the bus comes. You don't need to get into your regular environment where you've got various apps. You just quickly need to get online. So I think it would probably work quite good as that, as a sort of an alternate OS rather than a regular one. I mean, I certainly could not live with, forget the fact that it's Google, and I've got sort of data mining issues with that. Forget the fact that it's Google. I could not use a computer that is essentially just a web browser. I could not do that. I just could not work like that. So I think people it'll work for some people, but I think many more people will realise that they need something that's more than just a web browser, essentially. So Google Chrome may not work for them.
Well, I think it's horses for course. I took when I was away on holiday a few years back, I bought a netbook, and I was actually surprised myself about how much I could get away with on just purely a browser. And certainly when I'm on the train coming to work and messing around on my phone, it's mostly just surfing the net. So probably for me, the Chrome operating system would be very, very good, and would do everything I need. It's only when I sit down on my little workstation upstairs that I'm doing things that might require a little bit more than just a web browser. But now might be an opportune time just to drop something very quickly in. It's not a separate piece of news, and it is sort of linked, and there might be a bit of discussion from Roy and Gordon in regards to this. I read a very good article, and it's going to be linked on the show notes as soon as they're done. It's entitled "The Truth About Ubuntu," and it's not an attack on Ubuntu or anything like that. And I was reading this chap's views. It's written by a guy called Luke Slater, who has made a lot of points which I completely agree with. But the main thing he brings up here, which is sort of related to what we've been talking about already, was the fact that a big deal was made about Ubuntu not mentioning Linux, the word Linux on its site, or not overtly mentioning the word Linux, and there was accusations that it was moving away, or trying to move away from the name, maybe because that might put people off or whatever. And he makes some very good points about branding. Now I know myself and Roy have had disagreements on the show, and we have different views about branding and whether it's a good or bad thing. But this chap does highlight that another distro, Fedora, is guilty, if that's the right word, of very much the same thing. He's quoted their website and the description of the Fedora distro, and it reads very, very